Okay. So make a motion to accept the agenda for Scituate Board of Health, Monday, August 9th at 6 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So first scheduled item, discuss and vote septic design hearing, 31 Lowell Street, Grady Consultant representing homeowner requesting for installation of a septic system requiring local upgrades and variances. And I know he's probably sending that out, so.
I hit the send button. It's a short message, but it should come through. And I'd be
Okay.
happy to share my screen too, if you give me the ability.
That would be great.
Perfect. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Perfect. My name's Darren Grady. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Lynn and Stanley Vazella. Back in 2015, we did a septic system for this house, and they were going to raise and rebuild the house. They recently figured out they're not going to raise and rebuild, but they're selling. So we're into from new construction to a repair. There's very little room on this small lot. The lot is a little less than 5,000 square feet. There's very little room because the building takes up a majority of the lot and only leaves us this existing decks as well, and only leaves us this side area to really put a system in. The soil out here is really good. It's sand, similar to everywhere else in Hummerock. We've got a perk rate of less than 2. But in order for us to put in this system, and the system is fully sized, we're not asking for any reductions except for what's allowed by the IA approval. But we're asking for a reduction in soil absorption location setbacks to the property line from 10 feet to 1 feet. Reduction in system septic tank location from 10 feet to 7 feet. Reduction in soil absorption system location from 20 feet to 3.2 feet to the cellar wall. Reduction in the septic tank location to the cellar wall from 20 feet to 2.5 feet, should be 10 feet to 2.5 feet. And also we're asking you to allow us to increase the allowable maximum cover up to 72 inches. And also a reduction in location setbacks to the water supply line from 10 feet to 5 feet. That line in the location where it crosses is proposed to have a watertight sleeve within 10 feet of the crossing. And we're asking for a Title V variance for the reduction in lateral excavation of unsuitable material from 5 foot to 1 foot. This system is a substantial improvement over the existing system, which is a existing cesspool here. We will be meeting groundwater separation. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
And the cesspool's going to be filled in, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll pump and fill this one.
Okay. And with the new tank, is it not on anything like people drive over it and all that? It's under the house, or?
It is in an area that they may park on. Did I do an H20 tank here? I have an H20 loading tank here.
Okay.
So, but this is an area that they would park in.
Okay. Drew, was there anything else out there? I mean, I know
No,
Hummerock is Hummerock.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of those spots, you know.
Okay. Now, did conservation have to approve this?
Conservation did approve this.
Okay. All right. Any other members have any questions, or Karen?
Nope, my only request is, Darren, can you zoom in on the list there of your variances? I want to make sure I get it
Oh,
right.
yep.
Yeah, just like you were before. Perfect, just because I don't have my documentation, so I want to get it right. No, I don't think I made additional questions, and it's already approved by conservation, so
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request. So the first is a reduction in the system location setbacks to the property line from state and local requirement of 10 feet to 1 foot. Reduction in location of setbacks to the property line requirement from 10 feet to 7 feet. Reduction in the system soil absorption system location setbacks to the cellar wall from state and local requirement of 20 feet to 3.2 feet. Reduction in system septic tank location setbacks to the cellar wall from state and local requirement of 20 feet to 2.5 feet. To allow an increase in the allowable maximum covered up to 72 inches. Reduction in system location setbacks to a water supply line from the required 10 feet to 5 feet. And 1 deep hole per disposal area. And finally, a Title V variance, a reduction in lateral excavation of unsuitable material from the required 5 feet to 1 foot.
And all of the abutters notices have been returned.
Great.
okay. Got a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Daryl. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Number 2, discuss and vote 15 Manlot Road, homeowner Andrew Suris requesting a variance of Scituate private well regulations.
Hi, thank you for hearing me. So I started this process of digging a well about 11 months ago. The well is in, I got a water sample back. They did a standard testing. I reviewed the results before I submitted them. They all look good to me. I'm certainly no professional. The person I initially spoke to at the Board of Health said, "Oh, great, you're all set." Joan was out on vacation. When Joan came back, she looked at it and she goes, "Well, you're actually not set. My sodium level was high. On the water sample lab test that I submitted, it says there's no limit on sodium." It was explained to me that that's like the federal EPA limits and the state limits. There is a limit, and I'm just a little high of that. I'm also told that's not unusual for Scituate. I also, we selected standard testing. The lab didn't test for uranium. So I have no reading on that, but I can assure everybody here that I'm not enriching plutonium. I think it's probably a low likelihood that there's uranium in the ground. There was another thing Joan had cited, I believe it was maybe potassium. Again, I think I was within the guidelines of what was on the lab test, but not within the more strict town and state guidelines. So I've really, I've lived in town for 13 years. I've respected every single water ban. I don't run my sprinklers at night. I've replanted my lawn 5 times since I've lived here. I'm really just trying to do the right thing, and I know all the water comes from the same place, but I spent all this money to try and be productive and kind of take myself out of the town's capacity. So respectfully, just on those 3 items, you guys are more knowledgeable on this than I am, but none of them sound catastrophic to me. So respectfully request that you guys accept the water sample as submitted.
Okay. I'm just looking at the lab.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll just mention, I know the water needs to be potable. This is exclusively for irrigation. It's not in the house.
Okay. Drew, did we have anything else with this, or?
No, and I mean, the big thing is that, we're not finding any lead in the water or anything that's going to really cause a health issue. Sodium it's salt.
Right.
It is. So, and
And
he's going to respect the water and again, it's an advisory. The town select board put that advisory in their yearly notes that, they want people who do have private wells to respect the hours of operation, even though they're not required to. It is an advisory and, it is what it is, so.
Right. Anyone else from the board? I mean, like I said, I know it says 48 and it was 20 and it is sodium. It's not like it's something, really bad with it. I know a lot of the times when they did do this and I came in right at the tail end, I know a lot of it was when they were doing and talking about wells was a big piece of, I think it was in Pembroke. Kids were running through the sprinkler system and really injected the water, even though they were using it for water sprinkling, but kids got sick. And that's where I think a lot of it came into making sure everything meets it, even though we are doing it for just watering, is just more of the, a hot day, kids like to run through the sprinkler or animals or whatever. And that's where we were kind of going with the safety on that part. But I understand and I applaud you for, like you said, if there's a water ban, using the times and stuff, even though it is a private well and stuff. Any other members have anything? I mean, I don't think there's anything else, unless Andrew, you have.
No.
No, nothing more for me. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the requested variance from the water quality requirements for the town of Scituate private well regulation for sodium and uranium. The variance may be revoked or suspended in accordance with the regulation if conditions change.
Okay, a second.
Could I just ask one thing? Was there something on potassium too? I just want to make sure I don't, like, when Joan gets back, I don't still have an issue.
Yes,
You're good.
yeah, from Joan, it was sodium and uranium.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you want us to add that in, Andy?
No, probably, the fewer words, the better.
No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
So do I have a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.
You too. All right. And discuss and vote 13 Greenfield Lane, homeowner Peter McGeckern reporting a variance of Scituate private well regulations.
Hi, that's Peter McGeckon, 13 Greenfield Lane. Pretty much the same as a previous gentleman. Drilled a private well and finally got the results back, which took 8 weeks. Anyways, the sodium was just a little bit high. The reg was 20 and it's at 38. And manganese, same thing, just a little high. It was 0.05 on the regulation. It was 0.223. And the iron, which was supposed to be 0.3, is 0.415. And same thing, we're just gonna respect all the regulations and use it for irrigation. Kind of a bad timing this year. We don't even need it for irrigation, but anyways, the well's there and that we're requesting a variance for the same thing, same use.
Okay. And Drew, there was nothing.
Nothing else.
Okay. Karen, would you want to do a motion?
Yep, I'll move to grant the requested variance from the water quality requirements from the town of Scituate private well regulation for sodium, iron, and manganese. The variance may be revoked or suspended in accordance with the regulation if conditions change.
Okay, a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Peter.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
We'll see what happens.
Thanks. Okay.
All right. What I'll do is go to old business with wind turbine. Is there anyone on with the interested in talking with the wind turbine? If you are, you're on mute. Okay.
Hi, I'm Rob Rand. I submitted a peer review back in Oh, let me see what the date was on that. April 3rd. I
Hello.
just want to make sure you guys found it. And if you have any questions about it, I'm glad to answer it. The important graph is on page 5 of 6, where, and basically I just use Epsilon's data and looked at what we would normally consider for a drop with distance. And it looks like the turbine is exceeding the state rec.
Okay. Anyone else want to throw in anything? You know, this is your time.
Hi, it's Ellen Casper, 120 Gilson Road.
Okay.
We spoke several months ago. I think we were actually expecting to hear what your findings have been, since we had requested an investigation a few months ago, and we've been waiting to hear about how that's been going, what your findings have been. We have some other information we'd like to share, but we've also shared information with you over the past few months about, problems caused by wind turbines, health problems caused by wind turbines, personal stories of health problems. So we were actually expecting to get some information back as well.
Well, I mean, I want everyone to have their chance to talk, and then I have something that I've gone through and put together. But I want everyone to have their chance to speak. And Ellen, I remember, we all had this conversation.
Yeah.
I know some of the things was misspoken in the paper, but we all have those opinions. But anyone else want to bring forward anything?
Well, I do have information to bring forward, so.
All right.
So we just wanted to make sure that the continuing problems are addressed, not just the noise, but there's also strobing that comes from the wind turbine. And it's a documented environmental pollutant that interferes with the optic pathways, and the adverse health impacts associated with this strobing include headaches, nausea, dizziness, anxiety, and in general, it triggers a flight response, which violates the rights Scituate residents have to the safe use and enjoyment of their private property. So we're requesting that the Board of Health make and approve a motion to declare the strobing a nuisance condition, and it's documented to be harmful to public health. Issue an abatement order to the developer demanding that the developer mitigate completely any and all strobing impacts on the community, and that they install best available control technology or backed software to end the adverse impact. There's also noise that emanates from the wind turbine, and it's comprised of various frequencies. Audible noise, which is regulated by the state of Massachusetts, Mass DEP 310 CMR 7.0. There's also low frequency noise and infrasound. And we request that the Board of Health make and approve a nuisance declaration relative to the noise issues which have been documented to adversely impact public health. The declaration of nuisance would provide the town a vehicle to order a total shutdown. No other private business is allowed to disrupt the safe use and enjoyment of residential neighbors here in Scituate. Our state nuisance law should be enacted to accomplish the protections. Scituate Wind's contract and lease agreement contains language which make it clear that all applicable legal requirements must be adhered to. The documented testimony and empirical evidence shows that Scituate Wind has been violating our state nuisance law since it was commissioned. And I just have a couple of questions. Has the town council, town administrator, or any other town official provided direction or coaching to either the health director or any Board of Health member as to how to respond to wind turbine neighbors' requests for relief or action? In the past, this independent board has been interfered with. Is the Board of Health sufficiently trained in applying state public nuisance law? If so, what training has been provided? And if not, why not? And what information has the Board of Health researched since the last Board of Health meeting on this topic held on March 22nd? And we also have since heard Karen Canfield's testimony saying that it does have adverse health impacts. And we've also sent in information on noise, the peer review from Rob that we sent in, Rob that just spoke. So we just, when you finally have everyone's testimony, if you could get back to us with all those answers. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave, you're on mute.
Yeah, good evening. I welcome the opportunity to speak before the board. I've been here before, as you know, Mr. White. Can anybody hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
I've been here before discussing this matter with you over the past number of years, your predecessor and now you, and I brought before you a WECS provision I would like to have put inside the regulations to try and protect the town from harm from wind turbines. But the point I didn't know whether you were going to allow us to speak after you talk. I wanted to make sure that the point that Ellen Casper was making about a testimony is on the record. I testified in Boston at the State House about the support of some bills. And then Karen Canfield, who was the co-chair of the select group in the town of Scituate, who you know very well, also testified in favor of the same bill. And she was supportive of my testimony. In that testimony, which I can play for you if you allow me to share, I have a small clip of 3.5 minutes for what she said. Let me know, I can click it up there and you can see it. She stated that the town had declared that this thing was harmful to the residents of the town, and therefore they unilaterally requested from the wind turbine operator penalties that would be to shut the thing down to protect the residents. She also said it was a health problem. She also stated the fact that there was some testing done, but it didn't take into account the other things, infrasound and flicker, which she stated specifically, which is something that hasn't been addressed by anybody. She made it quite clear that this thing represents a problem. Now, whereas the select people are select people, they are not compelled to really do anything by law. Whereas you as the Board of Health are compelled by law to protect the residents of this community from health issues. And therefore it's your legal responsibility to take action after the officials of this town have come out and stated categorically that this thing represents a problem. Would you like me to play that testimony of hers, or have you seen it? I think it was sent in to you.
I've heard it. I think you played it at the meeting that you were there with a lawyer. I think was that when you played?
No.
Okay, if you'd like to play it, go ahead. That's fine. I thought it was when you were there with the lawyer about shutting down Falmouth, which those turbines are still going in Falmouth. I have a house in Falmouth.
No, the Falmouth turbines are not going.
One of them is.
Yeah, I am beg to differ because I have a house in Falmouth and I've seen them on, and I'll video it next time I'm down there. There's 2 of them that are working. So I will, that's another piece, but I'm worried about Scituate, not Falmouth. But what was talked about was Falmouth and how that lawyer shut it down, and they are still going.
No.
Yes, I live there. I have a place there.
The town
I'll video it next time in front of Falmouth High School.
The town-owned turbines are not operating.
Okay.
That's correct. The town operated
Okay.
turbines are not operating.
There is another operator, another wind turbine that
Okay.
is not town-owned, that is,
Okay.
you are correct, operating.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there was a court order on 2 of them.
Okay.
That's right.
Anyway, here is Karen Canfield's testimony before the State House.
Okay.
Town of Scituate Select Board. Karen, you have the floor.
Can you all hear this?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair Barrett and to Chair Roy for the opportunity to address the committee. As I said, I'm Karen Canfield. I'm a member of the select board here in Scituate. I'm delighted to follow Mr. Darty because he set the groundwork of what we're dealing with. I'm here also to strongly encourage the committee to favorably report on H3373 and after leaving the adverse effects of the wind energy as soon as possible. This legislation is vital to addressing the unanticipated consequences of land turbines located near residential homes. As you heard in Alicia Barton's testimony earlier today, now is the time when we need to move to the next generation of ideas for managing our renewable energy policy. Lisa Grabowski outlined the mechanics, so I just want to talk about why this is so important to communities. It's important because even as Mr. Darty has outlined, even though through thorough due diligence, rigorous permitting, and the very best intentions, you cannot know how a siting of a turbine is going to impact a community until the operation begins. That's what happened in Scituate. Just a little brief background. Our town unfortunately leads the Commonwealth in receiving FEMA funds to rebuild after coastal storms exacerbated by climate change. As a community, we highly value expanding renewable wind and other carbon reducing energy sources. That is why the town went through the very long process beginning in 2005 and culminating when operations began in 2012 to site a turbine in Scituate. However, immediately after the operations began, so did the complaints, as you heard from Mr. Darty, and they have never stopped. The complaints are entirely related to negative health impacts resulting from the operation of the turbine: headaches, nausea, lack of sleep. One resident, unfortunately, suffered a heart attack that his doctor attributed to the turbine's operation. Our town has commissioned study after study to determine whether or not the turbine is operating within the guidelines. If it works, the operator would be required to fix it. Unfortunately, the turbine does operate within these, but that doesn't mean our residents aren't impacted. As Mr. Darty said, this winter, the select board chose to cease operations every night from May to October to address the times and conditions when most complaints have been received. The shutdown is going to cost our town almost $100,000 a year. It's a good start to address the medical problems, but it doesn't address the whole problem. It does not provide enough relief for residents who live at the base of the turbine. They feel vibrations, see flicker, and have sleep interruptions constantly. Last year, the father of one of these families was before this very committee pleading for help. The bill that's proposed would allow citizens, businesses, and municipalities to seek compensation for the detrimental effects of wind turbine siting that may not be evident until the operation begins. This family needs that opportunity, and our town needs that support. I want to thank Rep. Vieira for filing this bill session after session, and I especially want to thank our representatives, Senator O'Connor and Representative Kearney, for joining as co-sponsors. As the Commonwealth expands its reliance on wind energy, this bill will provide a way to address any unforeseen negative impacts of those sightings. Again, thank you for this time. I encourage the committee to report this bill out favorably as soon as possible so that we can continue to expand renewable wind resources and also provide resources to protect public health if something goes wrong. Thank you for your time.
So she was supporting a bill for compensation for damages to both communities like Scituate and personal parties. But the point was making was they have admitted, our town officials, that there are issues with this wind turbine, particularly the people who are very close to it, like the McKeevers who have come before you. I also testified, but you know my opinions on it. I hope that that will show you that we're not alone in this. We have officials who are not given or drawn by law to take affirmative action in making it a shutdown like you are. I hope that the Board of Health will see their responsibilities and declare this thing a nuisance and a health issue and shut the thing down immediately. Thank you.
Is there anyone else on it that wants to speak? I know there's a couple of other callers in. And there's a Wheeler.
I did want to speak for the McKeevers who couldn't be present. And they requested that their letter be read into the minutes. So if I could just read that.
Okay.
We would like to request that our communication be read into the minutes of the August 9th, 2021 meeting in case the wind turbine agenda item is discussed prior to our being able to join in on the meeting. As has been communicated in the past, our home is located at 151 Driftway, and as such, we live approximately 640 feet from the industrial scale wind turbine, which is owned and operated by Scituate Wind LLC. For the record, our family continues to be adversely impacted by the following nuisance conditions created by Scituate Wind operations: noise of varying types and frequencies, and strobing, also referred to as shadow flicker. We urge the Board of Health to use your authority to declare the wind turbine operations a public health nuisance and order abatements to put an end to the conditions which continue to be injurious to our health and well-being. We appreciate that earlier this year, the Board of Selectmen approved a partial nighttime shutdown of the wind turbine in recognition of the harm to neighbors' health, including our own. We ask the board to consider that the harm to our health and well-being remains unresolved as follows. The noise and vibrations created by the wind turbine operations can be a nuisance during the hours and dates outside the BOS approved abatement plan. Put another way, we experience disruptive and excessive noise and vibrations both prior to 11 p.m. and after 6 a.m., and the nighttime and early morning noise during the months not included in the curtailment plan, mid to late October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and early May, need to be abated so that we are able to sleep in our home undisturbed by the various types of noise unique to wind turbine operations, audible, low frequency, and infrasound. Our understanding is that local boards of health are charged as follows. Local boards of health are charged with the protection of public health. The authority to investigate and control acts that negatively affect public health are primarily encompassed in the police powers of state and local government to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its residents. The statute governing regulations relative to nuisance and boards of health is MGL Chapter 111, 122. It states that the Board of Health shall examine into all nuisances, sources of filth, and causes of sickness within its town, which may, in its opinion, be injurious to the public health, shall destroy, remove, or prevent the same as the case may require, and shall make regulations. We are hopeful that the Board of Health will use your authority to declare the wind turbine operations a public health nuisance and issue protective orders of abatement for the noise and separately for the intense and overwhelming strobing impacts, which are seasonal in nature depending on the angle of the sun in relation to the wind turbine. If the board chooses not to take action to protect our health and well-being, we would appreciate being informed of the legal basis for the board's inaction in responding to the injurious public health impacts resulting from wind operations. Thank you for your time and attention. Lauren and Mark McKeever, 151 Driftway. Thank you.
I just want to add that our files should have this thing going back all the way to 2012, when initially a petition from 23 families was brought in before the Board of Health that was in at that time. And there are several, well, I should say, and then later in another meeting, the McKeevers, you just heard a testimony from or a statement from, had their attorney come in with a letter from their pediatrician stating how detrimental effects were being had effect on their children, and no action was taken then, which we all thought was absolutely wrong. So you have these records, and along with the complaints that have been made since that time.
Okay. I'll let you in on what I did. After our meeting there, and I think it was March 22nd, I did stand in front of your house, Dave, and Ellen's house at different periods of time. And I don't know if you saw me at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock, whenever, and made notes that which way the wind turbine was facing, if I could hear anything, if I could see other things. And I also spoke with neighbors that said they've heard more from the ocean than the turbine. And those are people that are either on your side or up into the other side of Third Cliff. And also down in back of the golf course and that. So, I mean, I know there's 23 families, or as you said, with complaints. I didn't, and this was before the shutdown of the 11 o'clock to 6 a.m. You know, I wasn't sitting in your house and rattling windows and stuff, and that could be. And I also know that Karen Canfield might have talked with some of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, or Drew, you know anything. I heard that they had talked about, you know, windows or different blinds, whatever. And a lot of people who they talked to didn't want anything to do with that, as the town was trying to put forward some ideas. And I think it came from Karen. And if I'm wrong, someone knows anything on that. And again, all boards don't talk through other things and stuff like that.
Could we ask Rob to chime in here, or ask Joanne to chime in here? Because it's obvious that you have not read the information that we've sent you about what exactly happens with the sound, the vibration from a wind turbine.
Well, I've read it and I've heard it from.
And it doesn't mean that because people don't hear it, that there aren't people that are not bothered by it. So
Okay.
I appreciate that you did that, but that doesn't invalidate our years of complaints, a heart attack, anxiety, children that can't sleep and have to be on medication. That doesn't negate any of that. And it's your responsibility to do something about it. It doesn't matter that people hear the ocean. The ocean is lovely. I love to hear the ocean. But when you hear the wind turbine and you can't sleep, that's a very, very different matter. And I think that either Rob or Dave or Joanne could speak a little bit more to this, if you would allow them to do that.
Yeah, I'm giving you guys the time.
Well, I can speak a little bit to what you described about going to visit the.
Can you just state your name and address so we have it for the record?
Sure. My name's Robert Rand Acoustics, 65 Mere Point Road in Brunswick. And I wrote the peer review that I dated April 3rd, reviewing the Epsilon data that's been acquired to evaluate the noise emissions from the turbine. And I just used their data, and their own data show that the turbine exceeds the state regulation. I want to speak a little bit about outside versus inside. Buildings act like a kind of a low frequency filter. They filter out the high frequency sounds like surf, the fizzy stuff, the wind in the trees, things like that. Low frequencies tend to go right through into homes. Homes are very poor at blocking out low frequency noise. You have to have mass to stop low frequencies, and most homes aren't built with a lot of mass. They're balloon framing, whatever it might be, New England homes. Low frequencies go right in the house, but the high frequencies don't. So what happens is you get an imbalance in the spectrum indoors relative to outdoors. Low frequencies will come in, but you don't hear the outdoors noise that you would hear if you're standing out on a street near someone's property. You can hear the ocean. That's not the same inside. If you have a bedroom that's facing to the west to get, say, the westerly winds in the evening, that's not facing toward the ocean. You're not going to hear the ocean coming in through the window, but you will hear the turbine noise coming through the window. So it's a slight difference. I think it's great to go out and listen and go around to different homes and listen. And it's especially important, and obviously you weren't able to do this, to go into the homes and stay in the home overnight, sleep in an unused bedroom, start to get a sense of what's penetrating into the home when the turbine is running. The data that Epsilon compiled showed that the turbine is exceeding the regulation at 151 Driftway, and based on standard acoustics, it's exceeding at the next 4 properties as well, 141, 131, 121, and 119. And all those are along that Driftway road, which is not out near the ocean. And there's really nothing else out there to contribute substantially to a background sound. You've got diffuse traffic from the area, and the noise levels that Epsilon provided for background show that the turbine noise using standard acoustics is coming in well over the limit allowed by the state. So when we're seeing complaints at the nearest house, and of course those next properties are in the same situation, the noise level is coming in well above 10 dB over the background. So that's the area to focus on. That's where the strongest complaints are coming from. So if you solve the complaint issue there, you will have solved it further away.
Okay.
I think you've oversimplified this by saying you went out at 2 o'clock in the morning, stood in front of a bunch of houses and you listened, you couldn't hear anything.
What do you mean by that? I mean, that's some of the part of what you guys were saying. So I wanted to get my 2 cents in, okay? That's why I did that.
What I'm saying is, Mr. Rand said, if you spent the night while this thing was training all night long, and you wake up with a headache and ringing in your ears, something that very subtly affects you over a long period of time that you're not aware of, that you can't hear it. There's noise. There is noise in the infrasound area that your human hearing can't hear, but it's very significantly touches the body and affects you. And by just listening outside a house for a few minutes, you don't get the full impact of everything that turbine is contributing to your health, to your real health.
So I have another question, which kind of rattles my brain. How many houses are in that Third Cliff area? And I'm talking from where the turbine is, come all the way down to Gilson Road, go up Gilson, up around Third Cliff. How many houses are in that development? And I mean, I don't have those numbers. I mean, I guess I could turn around and find those numbers. But I guess my question is, and this is where I have my hard time. I've got 16 people or whatever out of, let's even just low ballpark, 400 homes. And there's 4 or 5 homes that are inverted into this. Why? I guess my hard swallowing is, why wouldn't other houses be on this campaign fighting it too? I mean, if it doesn't mean that certain houses, because your house might be older or different framework, that's where I have the hard time, is there's a lot of people up in that area.
Well, we
got like 16 people, and then on your thing that you sent to us, the names, you know, there might have been 20 names or whatever, but addresses, I mean, there might have been 2 people in your house or 2 people in Ellen's house, and Mr. Kelly, who kind of is directly straight across, he was just helping you guys. He has no aspect of issues.
That's not true.
That's what he said in that meeting, that he was there to represent you. He has no issues. That's what he predicted and said.
That's not been Mr. Kelly's position for years. What I think you can misconstruing what happened was, Mr. Kelly wanted to seem like apolitical since he's head of the advisory committee. And he didn't want to seem like he was an advocate for us. but he was there testifying as a person who's impacted by this.
He said he wasn't impacted. And David, I would go back through your notes. He said he wasn't impacted.
Here's what I'm gonna do then. I will go back to all of the Board of Health meetings and the Selectmen's meetings where he has testified, and I will make select clips of his actual statements, and I'll send them to you. Now,
Okay.
the other thing you say is, why is some people affected and others aren't? Why, when you go on a cruise ship or any type of a ship, you see a number of people who are vomiting from motion sickness over the side rail, and there are other people that are totally healthy and happy? It's because this thing affects the inner ear, the infrasound, and it affects people in different ways.
Okay.
May I,
Yeah, I'd like to comment as well.
I'd like to ask a question if I
Go ahead.
could.
Go ahead.
Sure. I'm Joanne Levesque, 52 Houndstitch Lane, Duxbury. I've been an advocate for the neighbors. Is that, do I have permission to speak?
Yep.
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to, for clarification's sake, how many people in the community need to be adversely impacted health-wise in order for the board to have the legal authority to act? Because what I'm hearing from you is that the numbers don't seem to be there for you to be able to feel like you can take this seriously. I guess that's what I'm hearing, which is.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my hands around it. And that's where I'm saying, when you see things that cause problems in an area or a town or whatever, usually it's more than, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, 16 or 20 people that it might be, talking about, and there's 4,000 people in that area. That's where a percentage looks low. And that's where I'm saying, that's where I have a hard time. If they had a petition and they went around, no other people jumped on it, even to, hey, yeah, maybe I don't have it as bad as Dave or Ellen, but yeah, I do have some issues with it.
So since I have been advocating for neighbors in several communities on the South Shore, I can tell you as a rule of thumb, it is very common. It is actually the rule of thumb that you can often have members within the same household, some who are not impacted and others who are impacted. So as David just sort of wanted to point out, is to have someone that's not impacted, their testimony should not negate the effects on those who are.
Mm-hmm. And again, not to be, taken out of context. This is my opinion. Okay. It's not that I'm against, as said before, I'm afraid to make a decision because of this is my opinion. Just like Dave has an opinion, Ellen has an opinion.
Well,
Robert has an opinion.
you need to operate on facts. The Board of Health needs to operate on facts. And can I ask you another question about, was March 22nd the only evening you went out to make an observation?
No. That's when we had the meeting, and that's when everyone said, I went out probably 10 or 12 times at different hours. I didn't just go out one night.
Do you have any sense, just to give some context to the testimony you're providing, what were the power production numbers, or what were the sort of data or details of how the wind turbine was operating during those time periods where you were out there? And
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't have all the technology in the world like the other power companies and stuff like that. I was more of going as just to see what it does. I mean, I was seeing if I heard the swishing and the, no, do I have the rattling of the glass? Like Dave said, have I spent a night in their home? No, I haven't. This was just my opinion at different areas in front of Dave's house, Ellen's house, in the golf course parking lot, at the turbine, under the turbine, and that what I heard, what I saw, which way it was facing. I did not have meters. I don't have that thing. Well, and I did speak to other neighbors of the people on Gilson Road. And that's it. That was just my fact finding, because I guess it was more of my opinion and more of what I wanted to see, because I kind of think when you wrote the article in the paper, I was attacked, and I'm sorry about that.
Oh,
I shouldn't have been attacked.
I didn't write the article, but
Well,
what I'm trying
that
to
is some of the people that are on this phone, on this call right now. And I'm sorry, I was attacked. I never attacked you guys. And I mean,
Okay,
you're not
can
part
I-
of this. You're a leg, helping.
Well, some people think that I am a problem only
Well, no,
because
no, but I'm saying you're here to help these guys.
I
But I
am.
was attacked in
And
the
I'm-
paper. And
I
go into the Patriot Ledger and read the Scituate Board of Health chairman.
I appreciate what you're saying. I understand where you could have been very defensive about what was written, but my advocacy also extends to helping local officials. There have been
Mhm.
many boards of health, Kingston, Plymouth. I'm in great touch with the chairman of the Board of Health in Plymouth, reaches out to me on occasion
Mhm.
and asks me for advice or if I could send him. The reason I wanted to ask you about what the conditions were, the power production numbers, is because I hate to see you waste your time going out to perhaps observe if you're going out there during conditions which aren't considered worst case noise conditions.
Well,
Because-
and that's why I made it a point to go at 5, 3 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the morning, 7 o'clock at night. I went around the clock. I didn't do every hour, but I wanted to get an idea. And like I said, that's it. I had no noise. I wouldn't know if it was at 2 decibels or 55 decibels. I just wanted to hear what I would hear if I was standing in that
But
property.
let me put it this way. If the conditions weren't appropriate, then the wind turbine would be producing very little power. And the noise would not be an issue for neighbors. And
Okay.
Mr. Darty and Ellen Casper and the McKeevers and Valerie and the people who have testified will tell you that there are many nights where if the wind turbine is not producing power, it is not an issue for them. But it's those conditions which it would be helpful for you, I think, if you were to, agree to make some more observations, that you chose the right conditions, I think would be helpful. Maybe Rob could maybe kind of give just a little more information since he's the expert.
Right. And I mean, I know that the town has had, and I don't know the correct quotes, people come out and survey, people go to things and that. I am not, that technology. And I want to make sure that's not miscued, that I don't have the technology that maybe Rob has, or companies that do the turbines and stuff like that.
You would
I just
definitely
wanted to
benefit.
hear.
You would definitely benefit from some expertise, some.
Okay, and that I can, look down the road, but I just wanted to make sure. I guess I felt, and Dave, I saw your little smile there. But I've never.
Let me tell you why I smiled. Let me tell you why I smiled. In Florida, I'm a vice president of the board of directors of a very large housing development, which I have probably 3,000 people that our board controls or is in charge of. There are a number of people that don't like what I do, and they call up and use F words with me and call me this. And you got my point being.
Hey, I've got thick skin. All right.
That's my point. You can't make all the people happy all the time.
Okay, I understand that. But we also have some issues.
You haven't seen me on this end getting angry with you.
No, I'm not saying that. No, you did get a little at one of the board meetings before I was chairman. You did come in and you were upset that you couldn't speak, but you weren't on the agenda, and you kind of went, and Russ was there and stuff. So yeah, you have gotten a little bit of abrupt, but again, I was personally attacked. And I never said, and I'm sorry. I would you like me to write an article and say things about you? I wouldn't do that. That's disgrace. And I'm sorry. And then maybe I'm going over the board here.
Well,
but I took that very personally. Okay.
Mr. White.
I hope you're not making that influence your personal opinion.
No. That's why I went out all different times of the night for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
One thing that does disturb me, Mr. White, is the basis by which you seem to be making a determination. You seem to be looking at numbers rather than actual doing research into the health effects behind wind turbines. Have you done any research of any medical research that might be written on this so you can educate yourself?
Not fully. I mean, again, this is an appointment. I mean, I don't do all this reading on every inch of a turbine. No, I'll be admitting that and stuff. I do have the town, excuse me. I don't know. Did Ellen want to say something?
I don't know where that came from.
Steven,
No, it's me. I want to say
Steven
something. I'd
wanted
like
to say something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So am I up to speed on every wind term and all the notions? No, I'm not.
Doug, I can speak a little bit to some of the research that I did, if you'd like. I mean, just
Okay.
so I am a doctorally prepared nurse, so I'm fluent in healthcare literacy and really looking at research studies. And I did some, and this is just, you know, initial research after our first meeting to look to see if I could find direct effects in the literature, because I'm a scientist. So direct effects in the literature between wind turbines and human beings. And so when I did it, and you know, I didn't do a thorough, you know, investigation of everything that's ever been published, but I did find a couple good articles that did literature reviews through occupational and environmental health agencies or organizations where they could not find direct effects, medical effects. And this is not discounting the annoyance factor, the legitimacy of your complaints, the disturbances that you're feeling. It's not discounting that at all. I think we clearly recognize that it's impacting residents, some residents of Scituate, just based on all of your testimony. I took a pause when I couldn't find anything in the health literature that had a direct connection between the health effects. And so that was the piece, you know, my piece of this investigation. I didn't go out to homes and listen, but I did, you know, felt like as a doctorally prepared nurse, it was my job to really look to find literature that supported those claims, and I couldn't find it.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So it sounds, Karen, so I want to be clear on what you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying is there must be a beyond a reasonable doubt sort of standard for these neighbors in order for them to gain relief under state nuisance law. And my reading of state nuisance law and how it's been explained to me and explained to various boards of health on the South Shore is certainly not beyond a reasonable doubt. But if you read, and I know I've sent the board in the past, Chapter 10, Authority to Regulate Specific Nuisances from the Mass Association of Health Boards Manual, it uses the word shall, and in the opinion of the board may be injurious. So these words are all part of this Massachusetts state nuisance law that sort of gives you the support for the fact that beyond a reasonable doubt standard is not what nuisance law is based upon. And secondly, certainly, if you look at the complaints in Scituate and every other community in Massachusetts associated with wind turbine noise, it's often about the sleep deprivation, the inability to sleep or being woken from sleep. Therefore, they never get that healthy sleep one needs. And the fact there is sleep deprivation indirectly leads to a variety of health issues.
No, I understand this.
Okay.
The sleep.
All right.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
so I'm just
that.
saying, if you're saying there's literature out there that doesn't make a direct connection, that doesn't impact your ability to take action from
And
my.
I didn't say anything about taking action. I was answering the question about, you know, were we looking at any research? And so
Right.
my answer was
I want everyone to be clear. This is
Yeah.
Karen's opinion, just like my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want her to be quoted differently or myself or anything. It's just like your opinions.
So
And
my
that's
question
all.
would be, if she's reading literature that doesn't find a direct connection, what is the conclusion? As far as the ability of the board to help the neighbors.
Well, I'm going to read something in a minute. I just want to have
Okay,
everything.
thank you, thank you.
Ellen, I think you said Steve had something, or was it you? I don't know.
That was me. My name's Stephen Werther. I live at 120 Gilson. And I've been living here for 10 years, pretty much since the turbine went on. And I've listened to all these, I've been to meetings, I've listened to all these meetings. And as it was brought up earlier, I'm just not clear on exactly what was just asked. Like, how many complaints does it take? I mean, I have a lot better things to do than to sit on these meetings and complain for 10 years. I don't think if it was legitimately bothering these people, including myself, that we would spend the time going through all this. So, you know, whether you guys believe it or not, or whatever your opinions are, which everybody's got an opinion, I get that. But how many complaints, how many people does it take for you to make this decision that benefits the people of Scituate that are paying taxes? I can't wrap my head around it. I've been listening to excuses, and you guys weren't probably even on the board back then, but I've been listening to excuses for 10 years, literally. And every week, every meeting, I listen and I hear the same stuff, frankly. And so what does it take for somebody to make a decision that people's lives are being impacted and serious health issues are happening?
Okay, well, does anyone else have anything else they want to add? And then I'm going to put through what I had.
I could just offer that the data acquired by Epsilon indicate that at the nearest house, the 151 Driftway, the levels are definitely sufficient to disturb sleep based on the World Health Organization 2009 Executive Summary Table 1, which lists Lmax or maximum levels associated with sleep disturbance. And they list a variety of different qualities of sleep disturbance that are associated with different levels of maximum noise intruding into the bedroom or where the person is sleeping. So that's a very well-known research paper that was compiled by dozens of researchers for the WHO 2009 document. It's easily found. And the WHO went on in 2018 to offer a conditional guideline for wind turbines of 45 LDEN, which is a complicated number, but it basically boils down to don't exceed 35 long-term average at night, based on the definitions of LDEN in Europe. And the noise levels at the McKeevers are way above that. So in terms of looking at the literature, and is there indication that noise levels could disturb sleep, there's no question that the noise levels at the McKeevers could disturb sleep. When you solve that problem, because they're the closest home, you will reduce the problems at all the other homes in the area. Now, the distribution of homes, as you can see on my first figure in my report on page 2, the distribution isn't uniform. There are a bunch of properties close to the turbine, and then there are a lot of properties out beyond, say, 1,000 feet or so. And so it's a different noise drops with distance. So the further away you are, the lower the noise level is. So you've got this combination of uneven distribution of homes, people with different levels of sensitivity, and then the drop with distance. So that's a multivariate situation going on. When I hear the report that there were 16 or 23 people or homes complaining in the area that I'm looking at, from my experience going back to 1980, that's a lot of people. The number of people who usually complain about a noise problem is a tiny fraction of the overall community. Most people are afraid to complain. They're afraid for their personal safety. They don't want to make a fuss. There's that phrase in the Midwest called Minnesota nice. You know, people just want to be nice, so they don't want to complain. A lot of people are brought up, if you don't have something good to say, don't say it. So there's a general quality of people not complaining about something that's bothering them. So in noise, the way that works is a very small percentage of the population tends to complain. So when you see a complaint, that's significant, because it means that For the one person that's complaining, there might be 5 or 10 people that would want to complain, but they won't for various personal reasons. It's just information for you. It's not, these are not my opinions. I'm just reporting to you what I've learned over the years.
Okay.
So when I look at this situation, again, I come back to noise is a function of distance. When you solve the problem for the McKeevers, which is a real documented problem, it's been documented by the Epsilon data, it's been documented by their repeated complaints and appeals to stop the noise. When you solve the problem for them, you will solve the problem for the people further away. That is my professional opinion.
I think it should be made clear. I don't think Mr. Rand, who's a very humble individual, has told you his full qualifications. I believe he's a registered professional engineer. He's a part of the INCE, which he'll tell you what that means. Worked for Stone and Webster many, many years until he went into business for himself. Would you like to tell him your qualifications, Mr. Rand, a little bit better than I did, so they understand they're not talking to somebody who is just making this up?
Sure. I worked in the noise and vibration group at Stone and Webster for 10 years. So I designed power plants. I managed budgets of up to 8 figures for noise control alone. I was the silencer specialist for the company, which meant that I wrote and maintained specifications for all noise control equipment worldwide for 2.5 years. The last 2009. So 12 years I've been measuring, investigating noise emissions from wind turbines, starting with the Mars Hill project up in Maine, which had a class action lawsuit involved with neighbors who were, the turbines were situated too close to the neighbors. And I've measured many, many turbines. I am one of those people that gets seasick. I get motion sickness. And in my profession, not many do. I know a handful that do, but most of my colleagues do not experience motion sickness. Paul Schomer, Bruce Walker, George Hessler, who we did the cooperative study in Shirley in 2012, they don't get motion sick. I do. I had nausea, headache, dizziness while we were measuring in Shirley. They did not. So the ratio of people in the population that get motion sickness is somewhere between 5 and 25%. If you get a crowd of people together, some percentage of them are going to have motion sickness. A lot of them won't. The people who don't have it will have no idea at all what the people are experiencing who do have it. They'll have no idea, and they'll never know what it's like. If
Okay.
you've never experienced motion sickness, you have no idea what it's like to be sitting in a home trying to measure a noise meter and you feel like throwing up. And you're just sitting in a chair. You're not on a boat. It's bizarre. But there is something about involving the sensitivity of the balance system. Could be just genetics. We don't really know why it happens. It's been, people have been looking at this for, I guess, thousands of years. And we don't really know why some people get motion sick and some don't. But as someone who does get motion sick, I can tell you, I have experienced this in Falmouth when we measured back in 2011. I got sick in that home. And I got better when I went away from the home. I came back to the home, I felt worse. And that's all documented in the peer-reviewed papers that we got published through the SAGE organization, peer-reviewed papers. We've got 2, and I issued an occupational caution very quickly after that, as soon as I could, to provide a caution to my colleagues that if you measure in these homes, just be careful. If you are prone to motion sickness, there may be a problem. So that was one of the papers. The other paper described the entire process.
Okay.
So I can, as someone who does get motion sick, I can understand when people complain about it because I've experienced it. I've experienced it in Shirley, in New York, even in Aruba at Vater Pete. And my guide in Aruba was a EMT, a pretty rugged guy, Dutch. He got sick. And it surprised the heck out of him. He was not expecting that.
Mhm.
So you just have to understand that For people who get motion sick, there may be things going on that the reading measured by the sound meter, which is dBA, the meter is not going to know anything about it. And the dBA reading won't really register it.
Okay.
So
Well,
those
I
are
appreciate
just some
that.
information for you to give
Mr.
you more
White?
background.
Yes.
But I have to
Could-
come back to 151 Driftway.
Okay.
That is a real complaint, and there are noise levels there that exceed the state regulation.
Okay.
So if there's any need to have a justification or a rationale from a legal standpoint, as someone who's worked with the laws for noise planning and enforcement now 4 decades, you have everything you need.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
White,
Yep.
can I just ask Mr. Rand if he might clarify or provide some context? In Massachusetts, we have a state noise regulation, so that's considered the regulatory noise. But there are noise frequencies which he spoke to, the lower frequencies and infrasound, mainly occurring inside the home, that is not regulated by the state of Massachusetts, but
Right.
it is covered through the state nuisance law,
Right.
which
And
is,
is in his report?
No, in the report of April 3rd, I do not discuss, I only
Okay.
discuss audible sound,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
test,
which is sufficient to move
Okay.
ahead with action if needed.
Okay.
but the investigation or testing that's been done to date in Scituate, it's important for you to understand it's only spoken to or investigated the regulatory noise aspect, the DBA, the audible noise.
Okay.
Okay,
I have only one last point to make. Mr. Rand discussed the problem that 151 as being the greatest one, because they're the closest to the turbine. Back in the vetting process, 151 existed before the wind turbine had been built. And the plans of the wind turbine operator in the town was to get an American manufactured one, the GE. And GE would not sell the wind turbine to the operator because that house is only 640 feet from it. Couldn't get an American manufacturer that would find a suitable location to put a wind turbine in because of the closeness of that house. So they of course went to China, and they don't care anything about people's human rights or whatever. So that should have been a flag to us in the town, and I say us because I'm a member of the town, that when we found out that an American manufacturer has a problem with closeness to that close to the wind turbine, that we should have rethought our whole process rather than looking at the idea of we're going to save the environment, we're going to make money, which is a noble thing. I have no problem with that. But that thing should never have been put in so close to his home. And all you need is one person. Again, that's why I was asking you, but you're looking at the quantitative analysis rather than quality analysis. Like, how many people do you need? You only need one family.
Mhm.
And certainly 151 Driftway is a prime advocate of shutting it down.
Okay. Anyone else have any last words or anything else? And then the other thing is, if Karen or Kelly from the board have anything, comments or discussion.
I think I covered mine, Doug.
Okay. Kelly, you have anything to, and I know you're just getting on
Just getting
with
off
it and you've read it and stuff.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So after reviewing all documents, the wind turbine was permitted legally. Okay. At an annual town meeting on March of 2008, the town voted to pass Article 25 to adopt changes to the Scituate zoning bylaw selection of 740 to bring the town's bylaw for wind energy systems in confrontance with Mass DEP Wind Division of Air Quality Noise Regulations 310 CMR 7.1. The vote allowed wind turbines to be allowed in Scituate and regulated by the Mass DEP Division of Air Quality Noise Regulations. a special town meeting in April of 2009, the town voted and passed Article 5 to allow the lease of the property at 167 Driftway for up to 25 years for the purpose of constructing and operating a wind turbine. The planning board on April 9, 2010 approved a special permit for the wind energy conversion system at 167 Driftway. At the town meeting in April of 2013, the town voted not to approve Article 28, sponsored by the citizens petition to reassign a special permit granting to Scituate Wind LLC. As the complaints of quality of life, I do sympathize with, and I think the selected board sympathize with you too. I think that the shutting down the wind turbine as a direct cost to the taxpayers from 11 to 6 during the summer months shows that. They didn't even thought the wind turbine has been found to be in compliance with DEP Division of Air Quality Noise Regulations. So I'm looking to have a motion to place all the complaints on file. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's where I'm at with this.
Well, all I can do, you stated a lot of facts about what the town did during the vetting process. Just because we made a mistake, we didn't fully understand, or we weren't cognizant of the ill effects of wind turbines, doesn't make it right.
Okay, and that's, again, that's the opinion, and I understand.
If the town voted to allow rape and murder in the town, does that mean we?
Dave, I've read my motion. Okay? I thank you for everything, you guys, and I've told you where we stand.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? All the testimony is already on the record. Has been.
Right, and the other testimonies of the different town meetings and that of being approved.
10 years of testimony, that is. 10 years.
I have given you guys the time to talk, and I have made my talk, and we've made a motion on that. I thank you for the time.
What does it mean?
Yeah, but what does it mean?
What does it mean? Where does that leave us?
It goes into the files, and that's it. I'm sorry.
You're not going to do anything.
We'll continue to look at it or talk with other boards.
To look at it. Now, did you come up with that
statement,
that conclusion, or was it something that was written for you? Was that your own conclusion, or was it with a group?
I'm not going to note on that because it will be miscued. And I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your time. I'm sorry. I'm not going to get into debates and be asked.
I don't know what I don't
Excuse
know.
me.
I don't know.
I've given you guys the time. Please, please understand.
We don't understand what.
Okay. I'm done.
I
Thank you, Dave.
I don't think he understands.
Okay, thank you.
It means that the complaints have been placed on file, and that's where they'll stay. They're not taking any action on it. That's what it is. And if you want, you can take it to the next level. You can litigate it through the courts if you think you were unjustly treated.
Everyone's making you're on you're not on speaker. So. Thank you.
So even though Karen Canfield has admitted that it's a health problem in public to the state, the town of Scituate is not going to do anything.
Karen Canfield, that's the
Karen
board.
Canfield from the Board of Selectmen has publicly admitted that.
Bring it to the select board then.
I would bring it if she's.
The circle continues. We'll go here and then there.
You just said that Karen Canfield supported you. So take it to the select board.
Oh,
Thanks for nothing.
Yes,
Have a
nice
nice night.
work. Nice work, Board of Health.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for joining in. Thank you very much.
No, you're welcome. It's good to meet everybody and listen to everybody's
You're awesome.
perspectives.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. Director's report.
Okay, for the director's report tonight, we have 17 plans that are under 45-day review for new septic. We have 7 that are being given back to engineers for engineering. We have 6 that are under Concom review. We are working on 30 as-bills, and we have 18 that are in failure right now. On the COVID front, we still are battling it. Within the last 7 days here in Scituate, we have had 18 cases. We have had no one hospitalized. Most people have had very mild symptoms. As of today in the ICU, we have 61 people statewide in the ICU. We have 21 people that have been intubated. Again, when I went back to our previous meeting, way back in April of 2020, we had over 1,000 people in the ICUs and over 800 people that were intubated. We do expect that we are going to see cases with the Delta variant. I do have good news on the vaccination front for the town itself, and I just wanted to read you off some of the numbers. For 12 to 15-year-olds, we have a population of 1,007, and we have 594 fully vaccinated. That's 59%. 16 to 19-year-olds, we have 965 individuals. We have 787 fully vaccinated. That's 82%. 20 to 29-year-olds, 1,675 people. We have 1,199 people fully vaccinated. And that is 72%. 30 to 49 years old, 3,547 people. We have 2,910 people vaccinated. That's 82%. 50 to 64-year-olds, 4,629 individuals, 3,930 fully vaccinated, 85%. 65 to 74 years old, we're at 92% fully vaccinated. And then 75 and up, we are at 84% vaccinated. For the town, we have according to the census, the population is 18,099. We have 12,853 fully vaccinated. That's 71%.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we do have really, really good numbers going forward with that. Again, if people aren't vaccinated, talk to your healthcare provider, see if it is okay for you. We just had Heritage Day, big crowds down in the harbor. I imagine that, we will see some cases rise. That's to be expected. If you have had the vaccine, again, you may end up being a breakthrough case and getting COVID, but the symptoms will be very, very mild. You may not even know that you have it if you're not required to get a test, if you're feeling fine.
Yeah.
But again, the vaccine is the way out. We still have over 100 million people in the country that aren't vaccinated. And the big worry that we have in public health is that this is going to mutate and become another strain. And we don't know whether it'll get worse or get better with the new strain. Maybe the vaccine won't have any effect on it. So far, the Delta variant, the vaccine is working very good against it. We're keeping people out of the hospitals, and that is our main goal.
So Kelly, I wanted to ask you a question too, maybe Andrew, just about the schools and all the kind of controversy about kids wearing masks when they go back to school. Is that, something that we should discuss? Or like, Kelly, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, so we're talking with our medical advisory committee. We have a great team that we have relied upon over the past challenging year with the school physician, Dr. McBride from Scituate Pediatrics, the Board of Health, of course, Drew, Eileen Scotty, the public health nurse. Dr. Todd Alleran has consulted with us, and it's something that we're definitely looking at right now. We have, as I'm sure you know, we have a little bit of contradicting information as far as recommendations between DESE and DPH, as well as CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics. One recommending K through 6, two recommending K through 12. So it's definitely something we're looking at, definitely these numbers. And Drew, I was just going to ask you just to confirm the percentages. 12 to 15, you said 59% are vaccinated.
Yep.
And 16 to 19, 82, which is great. And I feel like we're doing really good as a town as far as vaccination rates, which is so helpful. I think, we're dealing with a variant that we didn't have. We're dealing with a different beast than we did last year. We don't know a lot about it. We know that it's more contagious, and we're going to rely on the experts and do what we've always done that has served us and our kids very well, which is getting the best, most current information from trusted medical experts to make decisions moving forward.
And Drew, it's awesome, and the work that you guys are doing with the public schools and stuff. But Drew, there's no other, is Marshfield still doing the testing, or is it now through other, is there any test?
No, now you have to, if you want the vaccine, you can go right online and they'll find a location. All the pharmacies, the CVSs,
right,
they'll have it.
Okay. All right.
We're very
Thank you.
lucky that we have access to testing and vaccines abundantly in our area. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Anything else, Drew?
That is it. I do have some administrative invoices that I'm looking for approval on. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 for perk tests for 280, 560, 140, 280, and then a invoice for the removal of hazardous waste, our needles. We had $78 to have those taken away.
I make a motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Other than that, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting of Scituate Board of Health on Monday, August 9th, 2021. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I thank you guys for your support tonight, and I think our next meeting, I don't have the date in front of me.
It's, I believe, the
23rd. Okay.
All right.
We'll see everyone then. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Thanks, Brittany.